Hello and welcome to the Chili Line podcast. Today, Makayo and I talked with Dylan, our special guest, but really he's just the third member of our team. We wanted to get him on and just kind of intro him to you guys. What do we talk about?
We talked about his work on Nick, being a green editor, the things he learned, the things he went through, the process of, and then we really get into AI. That was the bulk of what you're about to hear, just the pros, the cons, the concerns, the industry shakeup that I think is on the way, the inevitable, so to speak. And then at the very end of it, we wrap it out with conversations about movies we've seen recently that we really enjoyed.
So podcast to come, please enjoy.
Please enjoy.
We want to start by talking a little bit about Dylan here.
Yeah, introducing Dylan. He's the editor for Nick, does all of our post work. Pretty interesting guy for the most part. Some days he's kind of boring.
I'd say so.
Sits in front of his desk a lot.
Editing your fucking podcast.
Yeah, he edits everything. He fixes everything. He's kind of our superhero.
He is. Works
Aw.
really hard.
Superhero, that's a nice word.
So let's talk about a little bit. What did you do before Nick, and what are you doing now?
As far as film stuff, because that's kind of the point of these, not really much before Nick. I edited some drone videos back in the day, but
Hell yeah.
nothing serious or narrative. And then you guys came along and were like, hey, we're making a short film. You want to edit it? And here we are. And
You like sitting at home?
I'm the guy, apparently.
You are the guy.
The guy in the chair.
The guy in
Somebody
the chair.
has to be the guy in the chair.
Yeah, and you do an excellent job of that.
Stroke my ego some more.
I will.
He does love
He
an
works
ego
better when you stroke his ego, I've learned, as a director. So
Who doesn't?
That's a good point. He never strokes my ego. And
No.
maybe if he tried a little. Sorry, you're right. Sorry.
step out of line, boomer. So what did you learn through Nick? What did you, what are some of the things you like to say in terms of your work on that, on our short?
Nick was cool because it's the first serious narrative that I've edited that, took a lot of time and we put so much effort into it. Not to toot my own horn in the sense of how much work went into it, but
Dude it, brother.
I spent many days worth of work, man hours, probably several hundred, doing every little tweak, making it as good as we could with the things we had. And I think it came out pretty well. I'm proud of it. It's a first short film editing for me. It's your first directorial debut. Boomer's producer debut.
And acting debut.
True.
And
This
he
guy-
was the second AD. Dylan was the first AD as well. / scripty.
Yeah, he was big time scripty.
I think that workflow just works.
Yeah.
It's so perfect for me to be the guy yeah, that was a good take. I like that one. So it's ready for me in post.
Yeah.
I just go, oh yeah, I wrote down that this was a good take. Drag. Yep, it was a good take.
So yeah,
That's right.
saves time.
Yeah, it makes it super simple when somebody on set is here's what was good. Use these ones. And then I get to go, oh yeah, he was right.
And it
That
helped
was me.
helped me stay on track.
Yeah.
Because you still so many takes of something, you kind of forget what it was exactly. What number was it? What take was it? What was the, because when you're watching the monitor, you're looking for all the details and what you're trying to get out of the scene, and sometimes you just forget where you're headed a little bit. And so having you there to kind of
Keep the story on the rails.
keep it on the rails. Okay, actually, to piggyback a little bit on the Nick thing. What are some of the things you learned through the editorial process about story, and then what would you recommend or advice or to anybody who's trying to get into post-production?
So I'll start with things I learned. Editing is you get to direct how it feels. It's super intuitive to me, at least, is how it should flow, and the things you key on or sit longer or cut short are the moments. The way you get an editor's sauce on it is
Editor
the
sauce.
the super small tweaks that only somebody who's watched it 12 times is gonna know. But that's where, you know, you get a little extra. You get a bump in quality, or like the continuity, as well as like you can impact the story with just little, like, this shot was a few frames longer. We held as they walk off screen as opposed to just cutting.
Right.
Those type of things are super important to telling the story, which is like the whole point. It's got to be in service of the art, in service of the story, of how you're making it look and feel. As far as getting into it, I don't really know, because I don't have good advice on that, because I'm not really a professional. Like, I don't get calls, hey, come edit my thing, you know. So
Not yet.
yet call me. You guys were like, hey, let's make a short film, and I was like, cool, I can edit. I sort of know what I'm doing. I
Right.
know my way around DaVinci Resolve. Use that; it's free.
Yeah.
Do it. Make stuff. Edit stuff. There's YouTube tutorials for everything. Like, it's all out there. The information's free on how to do all of this. There's interviews with editors of Oscar-winning movies. Like, all that stuff is important to, like, have in here at some point.
Right.
It's a free education with the internet.
I feel like I've been to film school after watching, you know, a million
Yeah.
tutorials and a bunch of interviews and talking story with you guys, and like, that's where the real learning comes, I think.
Yeah, kind of note on that, you know, like when I first started working in the film industry, I was going to school as a communication and journalism major. And when I first started working on shows, I didn't tell anybody I went to film school. Nobody gives a fuck if you go to film school. Now, obviously, if you have an opportunity to get into AFI or, you know, NYU or even USC, UCLA film programs, great, do it. But you don't have to go to film school to learn how to make films.
No.
That's one of the things I want to tell people is, like, get on a show, get connected with people that work in the industry. You'll learn more on your first 2 weeks of set than you would in film school. Now, I'm not disparaging film school. I'm currently in film school. But what I will tell you is that I learned more in my first 2-3 weeks of doing a show than I really have going to film school. It's important to learn film history, film theory, but in terms of, you know, the how to practically make a film, YouTube, watch
Yeah.
interviews,
And
do it.
I've heard from some different like crew people we talked to that, you know, went to film school. They're like, you don't use that stuff. Like, if you stick with this film interest and keep going, you'll use that stuff in like 10 years. But like when you're first starting out, you're not using that stuff. So you have to, alongside film school, you know, over the summer, get on those projects.
Get on those projects. Yeah, just make home videos.
Make
like,
your
I
own
started
stuff.
doing stuff on my iPhone.
Yeah.
Didn't know how to use Final Cut. And I just went and did it, you know, and that's really what it comes down to is if you have an interest in it, start with the basics. It's going to take you time, too. You're not going to be an all-star within your first year. That's not reality.
Yeah. Unless you're Dylan.
Unless you're Dylan.
It's iterative, though. Like, the first cuts of Nick were not good. I'm straight up. They were not very good. And it's like, here's just all the select thrown in a timeline, and this is what it's gonna sort of be like. And then you know, find it. So you can do that with an iPhone in your house. You could do that,
True.
you know, with like zero gear. Pretty much everybody's got a phone with a camera on it. Start there.
Start there.
Like, make something is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
I agree. I like
Sure.
that.
Me too.
Let's just hard cut, no segue to. You want to talk about Sora? You want to talk about?
Yeah. Let's talk about, there's something in the news recently.
Mhm.
Let me reset this. How do I want to say this?
Well,
Hard cut, no,
Hard
cut, no segue.
For those,
I'm leaving all of this.
That's great.
for those that are aware, if you heard of Sora, it's OpenAI's new program for AI. Last week, was it earlier this week that it dropped?
Last few days. I
Dropped
don't
teasers
remember.
for it. It's freaking mind blowing. You know, it's text to
Video
text
model.
yeah, and it's insane. They release clips on their site. You can Google it, Sora, OpenAI, and it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, dude. It like, you know, you kind of watch along this stuff of like the AI generation stuff because we're young and we like tech stuff. And like a year ago, it was like that video of Will Smith eating the spaghetti, and that was pretty bad. But it's the same time. It was like at that time it was crazy, and now here we are a year later, and it's like that could be real life.
Well,
like
one of the clips that you see on their website is like this one where it's like the camera's looking out like a subway window.
Yes.
And the reflections that it gets in the window of the woman who's there, who's not
In
there
the train.
in the train, like it's insane.
that's one of the craziest parts I think about it is the lighting and the reflections that it can do, because that's hard for like to animate. I don't know how
Yeah.
that, but that's hard to like getting reflections and lighting down is tough, and it from the videos they have posted, it nails it.
And that's just what they're releasing.
Right.
You know,
This is the worst of it.
This is that's just what they're releasing to the public as like teasers. But really, what I want to talk about is like it's scaring a lot of people in the film industry.
I think rightfully so. So like you just mentioned a year ago, the Will Smith eating spaghetti video was terrible. His hands are going in and out and the spaghetti's through his
Scary.
face. It looks awful. But that was a year ago. And now it's like you can text a video good, like stuff that would absolutely work for stock footage or like
Yeah.
B-roll.
there's 3-second clips in there that you could cut in to almost anything and no one would second guess it if they didn't know better.
Totally.
It makes me nervous,
Yeah.
frankly, as a filmmaker, because it's like, well, okay, the pros of it is if you're kind of like in the stage where we're at right now, where we're just trying to figure it out and get our footing. It's great, right? Imagine if we could, for any project we have, we could just text the caption, birds flying over a lake, wide, whatever, and it does it, right? And that's great for us because we can do high quality stuff with no money. The scary part about it though is when like, what does that mean for productions? What does that mean for more than half of the below the line crew that work in these spaces? Like, there's not going to be jobs for these people. For us, and like those PA gigs won't be that I have had won't really be a thing.
Yeah. Why would they be when you can? Because like you were saying, that it costs $100,000 to go on location, get trucks out there, get the equipment out there,
Hire
spend a whole day,
6 grips and lighting crew.
spend a whole day filming to shoot a 5-second clip you use in your film. Now it's like birds flying over lake and it's there.
It's done.
Yeah, man, it's scary stuff, but it's cool because it opens up so many new avenues to like make available things that we couldn't actually film.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like any of the stuff they've released so far is not available to us. Like the woman in the train, we couldn't go to Tokyo and get that shot of like the woman's iPhone in the reflection. Like it would be impossible for us to do. And even further, it's made available stuff that's not real. Like there's one where it's POV of an ant going through an anthill, and an ant navigating an anthill is not something we're able to actually film.
Right. That's
one of the cool things that it could do too. Is the perspectives that you can get now, or stuff you haven't even thought about, even considered making reality.
And the stuff that's not real looks more realistic because you wouldn't know what that looks like. So getting AI to generate that, it's like, sure, that's what it looks like. That's sick.
Yeah. No, it's and we'll see. I mean, we're coming out of a few months past the WGA and the SAG strike, which honestly I think a lot of it had to do with concerns around AI.
Yeah, definitely.
Rightfully so. And IATSE, let's do I want to go here?
Well, I mean, I can see
Teamsters,
I can see a lot of those below the line workers being pretty worried and pissed off about this kind of thing. Like that's, you're working that at 30 years, all of a sudden this comes up, it can destroy your job. Yeah. Or even, not destroy it, but create less opportunity for you to work.
Yeah. The Writers Guild made sense because that like ChatGPT came out and language models and the way AI can write is like pretty impressive. And now it's not so much about scripts and story, it's the actual camera work. Like you can do that
Yeah.
with
AI.
just in your computer in your room. And now it might happen that those people like camera and grip and all the people who would be in a job to go get the birds flying over a lake shot are now like
Obsolete.
yeah,
Yeah.
You don't need
you
it.
don't need them.
Significantly cheaper too.
It's a huge expense gone. Why wouldn't studios want to just text a video? Like it makes making films so much cheaper for them. The incentive is there to try and use that type
Yeah.
of thing. So who knows?
Who knows, man? It's scary. The acceleration too, because like when the Mandalorian came out and like the Obi-Wan series, and I know Disney was volumetrics,
Yeah,
the volume thing. That now was like an emerging tech that now might get completely obsolete as well. Because why would you need a giant space volumetric when you can just do it through a computer?
Yeah. Or I mean, I could see it. You could generate images for the volume too. You know.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Where you don't have to go into, Unreal Engine and
Create a world.
Yeah, you
like
can
that's
just-
a pretty time-intensive process. I've done some of that.
yeah.
And if you can just, I need a background of a desert planet with winds and sand blowing in the background, and then throw it on the volume and have your actors in the space. It's quick, it's easy, it's cheap.
Yeah.
What are some of the pros that you see with the future of AI being sort of integrated with film and media?
I see it becoming more accessible to people starting out and people with that aren't these big budget
Multi-billion-dollar.
multi companies and studios that can just throw money at any movie but now it's like, oh, if you have a good idea and you have access to this, which is not accessible right now, but it will be,
Mhm.
then you can be a independent filmmaker and make your film look maybe not as good as a big budget studio could do. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think that's a pro for sure.
I think another pro would be, I mean, like you're saying, it democratizes filmmaking.
Yeah.
The way that the iPhone sort of did, it goes even further. You don't need to pay for locations and people and all that. It makes it easier for smaller productions to do more intensive work, like create things that you couldn't do without expensive CGI or expensive sets and locations and big production stuff. The reason that movie studios exist is to facilitate all that. And if this cuts into that, it makes it easier for people like us
Yeah.
to do bigger stuff that's out of our reach currently.
Yeah.
Cons.
It's kind of scary that
Yeah.
like as an industry, the whole thing it likely will be able to be entirely done text to movie as opposed to text to video.
Yeah.
Just like
Text.
I need a John Wick in India with Matt Damon as the star.
Or I'm sure somebody will come out with something where you throw an entire script in there and it can
Just
Make
read it.
something.
make something based on that script that looks pretty good. And then obviously that there's, oh no, I lost it. There was
Well,
something.
economic concerns. Like, what do you do with 90% of the people that work in this industry
Yep.
who aren't working anymore? And in some ways, while it does democratize it for the average individual, it can kind of also create like a gap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True.
Like the only, you have your small time, filmmakers, and then you'll have the big studios who don't need anybody else, right? Which gives them more control in a sense too over story, over
Yeah.
projects, over which some studios, great. A24 is an example of a studio that prioritizes sort of true story, independent filmmaking,
Yeah.
gives rights to the creators versus like, I'm gonna say it, Marvel. Part of the reason why it fucking sucks now is because they have all the control in their creative storytelling.
Yeah. Marvel's gonna make some gross movies from this for sure.
And maybe not with AI, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Like in terms of, it becomes more of the business. Like you might lose a little bit of like the artisanal craft of storytelling,
And I think there'll be that pushback of, like movies being marketed as no AI.
Yeah,
like
well,
this is similar to how it's like, yeah, but I mean, that was similar to how it was like shot on film was a big thing, but like that's kind of going away too.
Yeah,
Like
it is.
it phases out for the easier option.
I think there will always be a space for practical filmmaking.
Yeah.
You know, there's just it's the look, the feel, the nostalgia for it. People are always going to want that.
Yeah.
But in terms of mainstream audiences, like if you
The-
can't tell,
the
then
average viewer doesn't know or care.
And the average viewer's looking at it on their iPhone.
also true.
That yeah.
You know, in
Watching
smaller clips.
Netflix on a plane or
Yeah.
Practical film, like the way Oppenheimer was no CGI, and then they do it all practically, and it's cool. It might have been cooler if they text to video the nuclear explosion. You know what I mean? Like,
Totally.
it'll be there. I would guess that we see a hybrid model
Yeah.
soon,
Yeah.
and that's going to become pretty standard. Of like, text to video is going to be well integrated into the process.
And I think that's cool. I think, you know, the more tools to make movies there are, that's the better the movies will probably end up being in the right
and
hands.
if everybody can make content too, then I think the emphasis will be on quality content.
Mm-hmm.
True.
You know, and which is important. A lot of the part of the reasons why I think movies are struggling right now too financially is because there's not a lot of good films out there. It's pretty rare these days. You know, and even the good ones that you see, like think about like American Fiction, phenomenal film, one of the best films I've seen in a long time. Yeah, how many people watched it?
Not that many.
Not that
me.
many.
I haven't
know?
seen it.
It didn't do great at the box office, which is sad because it's so good.
Like
It's not explosions and superheroes and
It's
crazy
the marketing
animation.
engine that,
Christopher
Yeah.
Nolan. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't have the type of like star power to bring people out to a movie theater, which is unfortunate. But that's like a much larger industry thing. Movies are not as big as they once were, and that's
yeah. That's true. Well, they're are they not as they're making more money though.
the big ones.
Yeah,
Right?
right.
Like
That's-
the Oppenheimers, the Barbies are crushing it. And then there's a gap, like we just talked about between small filmmakers and big studios. There's the gap between the Oppenheimer and American Fiction, for example.
Yeah.
Of like,
well, and
where do those films go?
and to make an indie film, like you have to go through the indie film circuit, right? You got to go to South by or hope you get into one of the major film festivals, whether it's Cannes. I mean, obviously Cannes like the
Right.
cream of the crop,
peak,
but
yeah.
but you know you have to go through that route, and then fingers crossed that it's well received enough that a studio like Apple or Amazon or you know Paramount or whoever it may be decides, hey, you know what, we're gonna give here's $3 to $4, $5 million for your project, you know.
Yeah.
And there's tons of indie films that never get seen or get made, and it's kind of sad in that sense, you know. But then also, like, not all of them are good.
It's also art though.
It's also art,
Yeah.
you know. So I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of concerns. I wouldn't be surprised if there are more strikes in the future because of that. You know, the WGA
Yeah.
got no AI can write scripts. That was one of the resolutions in the new contractual agreements. I get it. I kind of support that. And I do support that, you know, because you know, you need people.
Yeah, and I mean, AI only plays off of what it can learn. I mean, it's not gonna think up new stuff yet, right?
Yet.
Yes, but you know, so there is the human aspect of like,
Well,
I don't know.
can AI ever make an Oppenheimer, make an American Fiction?
Hard to say.
I mean, I don't want to go on record saying no. You know, it could happen.
It could happen.
That's a clip that could age like milk.
Right.
You know, it probably.
Probably.
The speed, the thing that's concerning is the speed from that Will Smith video to where we are right now with their really like the Sora stuff that's coming out right now.
Yeah.
Imagine 5 years from now when GPT-8 is coding itself a new text to video model. Like,
Right. Yeah.
It's what's the word I'm looking for? It's exponential.
yeah, we're accelerating.
Like you think about like film history, and it was like what the 1880s and 90s. It was like the first like even photography, right? And then they include sound, and then it became color, and that took decades, right? Like
Yeah.
and then more advanced, you know, styles of filmmaking, you know, with Hitchcock who kind of changed the game. That took decades, and now even with CGI, like CGI in 1995 I mean, think about like the original Hulk that came out
True.
with what was his name in Fight Club?
Ed Norton.
Ed Norton,
Norton.
right? The CGI on that
Banger.
was awful.
It was.
And then you watch Avatar 2, and it's like, dude.
I want to go to Pandora.
You know, even the latest, you know, Lord of the Rings is ahead of its time in that regard. But a lot of it was practical too.
Yeah.
You know, it was bigger of more of a blend than you would think.
And then there's the actor aspect, like that Black Mirror episode of like just using your likeness. Like you can, like, oh, you can try to schedule somebody like Will Smith to come on your set for, you know, a month and get all this filming done, or you can just, hey, Will Smith, can we use your likeness? Yeah, all right, Will Smith eating spaghetti, and then you have your scene.
Would you sign off if you were a big time actor? Would you sign off on your likeness being used?
I don't think so.
What
No.
if you were a middling actor?
Yeah.
They're like, hey, here's 25 grand, 30 grand.
I've acted in one thing. If somebody right now was like, hey, we'll give you some money to use your likeness, probably would say no. But there, I could definitely see,
You
like,
think about it.
yeah, like if they were gonna throw 50 grand at me, and like I use 50 grand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, imagine too, like, you don't need rights, but what if, like, copyrights for, what am I trying to say? Imagine, like, with AI, you could take the best of, you know, the characteristics of the best actors. You're not stealing from their likeness. You're just taking, like, little bits of their actor DNA. I'm just...
No, I'm saying that's crazy.
Yeah, like...
Because you could just create the perfect actor.
You know what I mean? I don't know if that's...
That'd be so nuts, dude.
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio is permanently 30.
I mean...
The perfect actor.
Permanently 25.
Perfect actor, you know? And
Sorry, 25.
We all know Leon loves his 25.
25 is his favorite number. Wonder why.
It's a good cutoff.
But yeah, I mean, that's a great point. It's like, you know, dealing with actors on stage trying to get out their best performance. You know, maybe there's an AI model that just gets the best performance, you know? Like,
Yeah, or you have a really great performance and they blink at the wrong time. And you're like, we'll just fix it with an AI. Is that an authentic performance?
true, real.
You know, like
Real and true.
real and true. It's gonna get messy.
And then, of course, this is all coming out in an election year with the using.
That's the other thing with
Yeah.
AI is like misinformation, propaganda. How do you know what's real and what's not? I mean, that's if you can't tell.
One of the best takes I saw about the AI video stuff that's coming out right now is we're not like the AI generated stuff is scary, but the worst part that's going to come out of this is we're going to have to think that there's going to be suspicion that real things that happened are not true.
Yeah, that's a
Like,
good point.
you see a video of Joe Biden doing whatever, and you have to go, did he?
Yeah.
Like, is that a real thing that happened, or was this AI generated? And that's going to be, I think, a detriment to society.
It's scary.
Yeah, that's a great point because, I mean, you look at stuff right now and you're like, was that animated? Like, is that animated? You know, like.
Well, I'll be scrolling at 1:30 in the morning through Reels or whatever, and there's obviously stuff that's real, right? But then every now and then I'll see a video and I'm like, it's a little off. It feels not real.
I watched a 2-minute TikTok the other day of a basketball game, and I didn't realize until I watched it the second time that was the video game.
Yeah.
That was an NBA. Seriously, like, so imagine this that can make it look even more realistic. Like, you're not. How do you know?
It's gonna get weird. It's gonna get. I don't want to say dystopic because that's like.
Oh, let's get dystopic and
Yeah.
talk about Apple Vision Pro.
Oh my god.
Dude.
Black Mirror saw this coming. It's happening.
Yeah, they
It's
also
gonna
saw
happen.
robot dogs coming, and that hasn't happened. So
Well,
Yeah, but like, what is the purpose of a robot dog? Like, dogs are cool because they love you unconditionally and they're happy little fuzzballs.
yeah,
except those ones. Did you ever see that episode?
No. What?
The robot dogs?
I don't even know what episode I'm talking about.
Oh, that's what I thought you were referring to.
I kind of
There's a
just
Black
said
Mirror
it.
episode of
There's a
robot
Black Mirror
dogs?
episode where it's been a few years since I saw it, but I remember like the main character, she's like in this junkyard or
Oh yeah, that is what I'm talking about.
yeah,
You're right.
and they're like these little quad robots that act like dogs. They don't really look like dogs, but They're basically dogs.
Looks like those little like Boston Dynamic
Yes.
things, and
Yeah.
you kick them, and they're like,
I don't remember the context of the story as well, but they're like they took over. They're like hunting people, and it's the story is just about this lady trying to survive the onslaught of these mechanical dogs. But
It's like Planet of the Apes, but with robot dogs.
it's robot dogs, yeah.
Rise of the Planet of the Robot Dogs.
Is that camera on? But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of concerns around AI. It concerns me, and rightfully so. Yeah, one of the things to kind of segue to is like, should it be open sourced? AI? Should everybody have access to it?
That's certainly an ethical question. And like we're talking about in an election year, an open source model is going to be much more prone to allowing you to deepfake people who are real.
Yeah.
Like OpenAI, I think allegedly is working on making it so that they will not generate real people, and you can't like game it to get important people to say crazy things, because that's
dangerous.
Obviously dangerous.
But if people can,
But if it's open sourced, that those protections might not be in place or as strong, and well regulated, because it's open source.
everybody can try to counteract that.
Yeah. There's having a centralized AI power like OpenAI curating what you can make is both good and bad for that reason.
Because everybody can use it. Everybody.
You gotta have both.
Yeah.
I think it should be open source, because if you were to have it closed source, only the people, the biggest companies in the world have access to it, governments, that concerns me a little bit,
what's the
free the people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to have regulation around it, because then you'll have bad actors that exist everywhere. That people are going to do nefarious stuff with it. I mean, they already did it a few weeks ago. Didn't they do a video of Joe Biden? It was like a thing out of Texas. There was like a,
I must have
I can't remember. There was a group, I think it was in Texas, that made this video about Joe Biden, and he's saying shit that never said. And they prosecuted them and all that stuff. But like, that's the type of stuff that will happen. And both sides of the aisle, everywhere, like, I'm not trying to get political here, but like, that's just what's gonna happen.
Yeah, because why wouldn't it? I mean, because there's already the voice AI stuff where you can type in anything and Barack Obama will say what you want him to say. And that's a little janky, but it's only going to get better.
It's only going to get better.
I don't know, man.
Do you remember the Trump clip where he's like, when life gives you lemonade, or when life gives you lemons, Joe Biden kills you with them?
Yeah.
Or something? That wasn't real. That he didn't actually say that. He was like, the lemonade kills you now, and then went on to whatever, because the Panera lemonade was killing people.
Oh, that's right.
Well,
and people reported on it. Like, people talked about it, and then they realized, oh, that wasn't real to begin with.
Yeah, he didn't actually say that.
But
it was comedy gold. Like, if he had actually said that, it was like, that's some fantastic comedic writing.
And the way that the news works is that you have to get the story out immediately. So, like, how quick can you check for, is this AI generated before,
especially when you have hundreds of different news outlets who all report on the same thing at once, they have to retract statements, like, I mean, what happened with Gaza, with the hospital, right? Like,
yeah, but how many people are hearing the statement versus the retraction of that statement?
Exactly. That's the thing. And then we live in a headline culture too. Not very many people look past the headline.
If it's not in tweet form, I'm not reading it.
Yeah.
Which is a whole other conversation. But so yeah, I don't know. AI.
I mean, any thoughts on how, as young filmmakers, we can try to counteract the negative sides of this, or the cons, or like, what is there to do?
I think understanding all of the angles, having a big picture view of like what's happening, being aware, staying up to date on the new tech, like that's the least you can do.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, like we use AI on Nick. Yeah.
We did?
With the sound thing.
Oh, yeah, true. We did do that. It's not called Goyo anymore. I don't know what it is, but there's like a noise suppression algorithm.
Oh, yeah.
So I was able to cut out all the background sound and then re-add what I wanted. And it was all super simple in an app, and it worked great. And that was an AI sound program.
Yeah, and I hate the idea of using AI until it helps me. Like.
Well, I mean, I've used AI to help build shot lists. I mean, I've saved
Yeah.
so much time, right? Like instead of going and building out the form or pulling it off the internet and editing your thing, you can just be like, hey, give me a basic shot list structure, and then I go in and tweak it to the way that I want, and it saves hours.
Totally.
Everybody does it. If not everybody, but I mean, if somebody says they're not using AI for their projects, they're most definitely
they're
using
probably
AI
lying.
for their projects.
They're probably lying.
Or they're just doing it inefficiently.
Or doing it in
Like,
efficient.
like straight up, that like, I like to use the analogy of it's like if you were to give Michelangelo power tools, he's still an amazing sculptor. He's just gonna do more and better.
Mm.
Like you're giving him the tools to do it faster, so he can make more stuff.
But if he's doing it faster and he knows how quick he can do it, is David so beautiful? Is the stat? Is
That's a valid question.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, certainly that's a valid question. I would say that you're swimming up a river. It's happening. These tools are available. People are gonna use them, so you might as well also use them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I would say. Like, it's going to happen. It's inevitable. No matter what happens, whether people go on strike, whether things get shut down, regulation, all that stuff, it's going to happen. So I feel like the best we can do, at least, is embrace it,
Get on top
get
of it.
comfortable, get ahead of it a little bit. That seems to be the only way to really, instead of trying to fight what's going to happen, start prepping yourself to be a part of what's going to happen.
Yeah, be knowledgeable in the tools that are available. I think that's useful for anybody in any industry. Like, do for whatever it is. What is the best tools that are available to help you do your work the most efficient way? It's easier. You get more done.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
like the Nick example, going through and having to weed out, the background audio. That's frustrating time to spend on something that could be better used for picking the right frame. How do we move the story through, with pacing? Like
True.
these little tweaks to create a more, to focus on the creative stuff.
Yeah.
AI. The one benefit I see to it now is one of the big benefits is that it trims the fat of all the little stuff you don't want to do.
The repetitive processes or hard analytical work is stuff that computers are just great at.
Yeah.
Like, run this throughout the whole timeline and make sure all the background noise is quiet, and it just
But
done.
what if you're a career grip, Dylan? And
Well, the thing is, like, specifically for Nick in this hypothetical we're using, we still need production audio.
True.
So
Yeah.
those people are still there. If you were a career post sound editor, it probably still makes your life easier and you like it, because now you don't have to worry about tweaking all these little plugins and making sure all your audio chains are done right. You can just, I want to turn down the background sound, done. I want to turn up the voice, done.
Right.
It's so simple and it's so quick. Why bother doing it any other way? Is like, I don't see a reason why those types of jobs would go away until all of it is like, all right, sound mix me this entire
Right.
film, done. And then it just like sound designs an entire movie, creates the score. Like, that's probably coming, and it's pretty scary.
Yeah, it's tough because like right now it seems like a great tool, but like what are the limits of that tool? Like will using this power drill turn into a drilling machine, turn into I no longer have anything to do because it's doing it all for me,
True, but then there's still currently, it's hard to say where this goes, because emerging technology can happen in a million different ways, and creativity is not going to be ended by AI. So there's still going to be people making stories and talking.
Well, and
like,
it puts an emphasis on story ultimately.
True.
it's all about story.
And it is
really.
all about story.
It's
That's what we
stories.
like to say. It's all about story.
Can't do without it. It's the one thing I don't know that AI will. Well, I don't know on the record.
Go on record and say
I think it'll be the last thing that I think AI will sort of like infringe on. You know what I mean?
Being able to tell a compelling, like, emotional story, a
Yeah.
human story.
And I mean, that's the thing with film too, is it's all about trying to, get mutual human understanding.
Yeah.
Can AI replicate that? Like if I saw, even if it was perfect, like in the back of my mind, if I knew it was AI, would I still connect with it in the same way that if it was done practically? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, would I care? Who knows? Me personally, I would value human-made stuff over AI-generated stuff. You
True,
know?
yeah, because like I see that scene of a woman walking through the Tokyo city, and, the one of their ones that they use over and over again as an example, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, but it's like it'd be way cooler if, I looked at it and knew
Somebody
it was.
pulled that off.
Yeah, if you pulled that off, and I don't know if that's just more of a, we're film guys, so we like that.
True. The casual
Or-
viewer may not give a shit.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's why Avatar was so cool, because like, you can not criticize it, but like you think, oh, it's all, VFX stuff. I was like, no, it's not
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
And for that film, I wrote a pretty interesting article about how they made it happen. And James Cameron basically invented a whole new way of doing underwater, cinematography.
Yeah, that's so
That's
cool.
insane.
That's so cool.
Whether it gets used and is it effective for it, obviously it's a very specific case. But like, will that stuff still happen? I don't know. And can you cheat the molecular structure of existence? You know what I mean? Like,
Damn.
That got deep.
Damn.
can you cheat that?
Yeah, right.
Will an AI sort of algorithm ever be able to perfectly replicate this experience we're having right now, where we hear the birds?
Beautiful
feel the
sunny day with the birds chirping and
It's a
a
nice
guy
day.
trimming a tree down there.
The way that light hits that leaf over there. It's like,
Right? Can it? Yeah, it can mimic the idea of that, but can it?
can it truly? Probably.
Maybe.
Someday.
Probably. It's coming.
It's coming.
It'll happen.
And I bet you it'll happen in our lifetimes. We
True.
And
live
then
in
we'll all be in our Apple Vision Pros just watching AI generated content in real time, like whatever you want it to be. It'll be the single most addictive experience ever.
Cut to 30 years from now, and we're doing this exact same podcast, but we all have our fucking and we're all in our own spaces, and it's just completely generated around us. That'd be pretty cool.
I think it'd be cool. I think there'll be a lot of excitement and it'll be a pendulum. Like all of this emerging tech will come out. It'll be crazy, but it'll probably correct a little bit. Like I don't think you'll ever be able to beat, hiking in the Rockies. Like seeing that the mountain peak as the light hit it so perfectly, and you're smelling, you're tasting, you're breathing the air. You're there. But it would be fun to test out.
But what if one day AI can generate smells, and all of a sudden in our movies, we're seeing this scene of the Rockies?
Especially with
Smell-o-vision.
Starlink.
Smell-o-vision.
We put chips in our brains and it creates, I don't know, makes you start smelling cherries, cherry blossoms.
You don't have to eat food; you can just taste it and eat your meal bar.
I'm super down to get Neuralinked, dude. I don't know about you guys. I'm in. Like, Elon, put that chip in my brain, dude.
I mean, if you're down, I'm down. That's kind of how I am.
If you guys are in, I guess I'm in too.
We're all getting chipped.
It's the only way
Yeah.
to, like, we have to be symbiotic with AI in the future because there's no other way to. Elon talked about this on a podcast, so I'm ripping his ideas
Please do.
directly.
He's ripped other people's ideas.
Basically, our input output with, like, you're symbiotic with your phone. Like, we're essentially cyborgs already because it's on my wrist.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, clothes.
but you can't transmit the information fast enough to where it actually is usable, like, with where AI is going. So if you can, like, your brain is a processor that's fast enough if you have electrodes in all of it and you can just think.
Right.
And AI is integrated into that. That's where, like, it has to go if we're going to continue to use this in the most effective way.
Yeah. That'd be pretty sick.
It would be pretty sick.
Because I'm a slow typer. So if I
You
could
could
just
just
think it and it would already do it, that'd be pretty cool.
Right?
That would be.
Okay.
Just text to movies in your brain.
Text it. Yeah, and it just sends it, so you're just watching the movie that you're thinking about.
Yeah, I made a really cool movie today. You want to see it?
You guys have to see it. No, I'm making my own.
Where were we before the camera died?
We were gonna get into some movies we've seen recently and what we liked about
Pick one, yeah.
them.
Where we want to start? Dylan, you want to start?
No, Boomer, go ahead.
I wanted to talk about, I think it's called Shoplifters.
Okay.
It's this Japanese foreign film I watched recently.
Okay.
And off the recommendations of Niccolo.
All right.
Yeah.
Shout out Nick.
Shout out Nick.
Star of Nick.
Star of Nick. Nick, star of Nick. And it's just about this Japanese family who lives in this city, and I don't know what city it is, but it's like probably like a Tokyo type big city. And they're just trying to make do with what they got, and they're pretty poor, but they do all these different cons, shoplifting, you know, collecting on this lady's pension, all this different stuff to try to survive. And they take in this little orphan girl, not orphan girl, but abused girl who kind of gets thrown outside her house. And it's just kind of like their story of them hanging out and then what happens when they finally get found out.
What was unique about it? What caught your eye?
The cinematography was really cool. They used for the most part, they kept it pretty clean, but there was different scenes like this one where the boy and the dad were playing in a park, and they like did this slow zoom, and you kind of just see like the size of the city.
Mhm.
And I thought that was cool because it kind of shows how little they are in this
Like an
city.
end to out.
And yeah, and I thought that was really cool. Also, the story was just kind of crazy because it's this very messed up situation, but everybody's happy and having a good time the whole time. And it's like, that's a little weird. It's goofy. It's fun. Yeah, I think you guys should see it. It's a little bit like, what's the point?
Yeah.
But,
What's it on?
what is it on? I think it's on Amazon?
Amazon?
Amazon Prime?
Sure.
Oh, yeah?
Like everything is, I guess. But I think this is free to watch.
0 to 10, where would you put it? On your personal rankings.
On my personal rankings bell curve, of course, it's gonna sit at like a 6.5.
6.5. Okay. So that's not great.
That bell curve,
Bell
right?
curve.
So
You're on the far side of the
So-
distribution.
I love movies, and a 5 movie means I'd probably watch that movie again.
Okay.
I'll say 6.8. Sorry, I do double scores 6.8.
6.8.
6.8. Yeah.
So 5 is like you're gonna watch it.
5 is your run-of-the-mill average movie. I would watch that again. This isn't like, the bullshit IMDb, everything gets a 7.5 and above.
Yeah.
That's not what this is. A 2 is like the most recent Ant-Man film. Like, I don't ever want to see that on my face again. A 10 is the best movie ever. I've never seen it.
Okay.
So that's where a 6.8
What's the
falls.
movie to you that's close to 10?
All right, wow. Probably Shoplifters, the one I just was talking about. I don't know. I'd have to think about that more.
That's fair.
The first Star Wars.
The first Star Wars, New
First-
Hope?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Phantom Menace?
Yeah, the Phantom Menace. Actually, way better than people say, but
The prequels are over.
we can get into that in a different podcast.
Or this one, if you wanted to.
Dylan?
Are you going to talk about American Fiction, or can I?
I'll piggyback off
You guys
of
should
you.
both talk about it.
American Fiction was fantastic. I don't even know how to start to describe.
What did you like about it?
I liked that it was Philip Wright. What's that guy's name?
Jeffrey Wright.
Jeffrey Wright.
Oh, is that the Westworld? He was in
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he was also in. I only knew him from James Bond, the most recent one.
In the second Hunger Games?
He was in the second Hunger Games.
He
Yeah.
is.
No, okay. So Jeffrey Wright is a fiction novel writer,
Mm.
and he releases a book, and it's meh. And he goes and sees this book that's popping off, that's huge, and it's this black woman writer who like does not speak like the ebonics she wrote in this book, or like does
Yeah.
not seem like she came up from a community that like is real to what she wrote. And he goes, all right, well, I'll just do that then.
Like pandering.
Yeah,
Like,
okay.
oh, they want a black book? Sure. And then he writes
Playing into it,
some
okay.
crazy stuff. And it's hilarious, but there's also emotional moments, and they tell a good, compelling story front to back of like, here's
Hits
this
every
guy,
beat.
he is writing a book, here's like how he gets there.
That's cool.
It's so funny. I was in tears in the
We were
theater.
laughing the whole time.
All of us were.
Dang, I should've
The whole
gone.
theater was
I don't know why I
laughing.
didn't go see
There
that
was
film.
there was a older gentleman down by the front row, and his laugh was so contagious.
When did you
Yeah.
guys see this?
We saw this a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
We went with we went with Ramon.
I'd watch it again.
I'd watch it again.
Straight up.
Okay,
It's
let's
it's
go
one of
see
the
it. I
best
wanna
films
see
that
it.
I've seen in a long time. Of the Oscar, I'm biased. Worked on Oppenheimer. Actually, I don't want to include that. I'm biased.
Why do you not want to include that?
I don't want to
I mean, you
keep.
did.
Okay,
You did. You worked on Oppenheimer.
I'm gonna restart. I'm biased because I worked on Oppenheimer. But I wouldn't be mad if American Fiction beat out Oppenheimer. It's deserving of that award.
I think so.
The three. I haven't seen all of the Best Picture nominees yet. I'm going to, but the three that I wouldn't be mad about winning are Oppenheimer, American Fiction, Poor Things. Not in any specific order, but if one of those were to win, I'd be like, okay,
Yeah, nice.
Deserving
they,
of.
They deserved it.
they deserved it.
Yeah, Poor
Yeah.
Things.
Did you see Poor Things?
I did.
Yeah. What'd you think?
I liked it, dude. I the first 5 to 7 minutes of that movie,
I was unsure.
I was ready to walk out.
Yeah.
And I don't walk out of movies. I was like, this is too much for me, man. This is a lot. I mean, and to be fair, watching anybody, I don't want to, but watching anybody pretend to be a child when they're not is a little bit hard to.
Well, and they do some
Sure.
weird camera stuff that's like not off-putting, but not common, so you're not sure how to receive it in
Yeah.
the beginning. With like they do like a super wide like wrap. You know what I mean? Like so
Yeah, yeah.
It just changes the
Fisheye
what's
lens
the
type.
para. Giannis talks about it. Periscoping. It's not periscoping.
Parallax?
Parallax. Thank you. Like you get some really bizarre parallax but and which is for some people might be off-putting, but like as you get into it, dude.
Yeah. As it started to kind of hit that second act where she's out and about with
Mark Ruffalo's character.
Mark Ruffalo's character,
Completely
who was
outrageous.
amazing in that. It got really good.
My
really
favorite
fast.
frame was when in that dance sequence in the ballroom, and he's like behind her, and she's doing like
Oh yeah.
that was just so cool. I don't know what to say other than that. Oh, typical Albuquerque.
Okay, come on now.
I love Albuquerque.
I love Albuquerque too.
But yeah, to piggyback off of what you're saying for American Fiction, not only is it like a social commentary, not
Yeah.
only is it funny, not only is it heartfelt, and you buy these relationships about a family, and it covers all of their respective angles, like they do some really creative stuff that I haven't seen, like the scene where he's like in his office writing part of the book, and like he engages
Yeah.
that. For those who've seen it, I don't think this will spoil it, but like how he engages with the characters he's writing, and how he comes in and out, and like breaks the fourth wall, but it doesn't. It's like
Okay, I was gonna ask, what does it do that like differently from other movies?
that's freaking
Okay,
cool.
Wow.
And then at the very end, it all feels like it was all for one main punchline, the main joke, which is like the meta commentary on like police brutality and that. We'll leave it there.
Yeah.
But it's a near perfect film. Like it's I can't think of anything that's like I just thoroughly enjoyed it. Was there along for the ride.
Yeah, there's nothing that sticks out as like, oh, they sort of had to throw this in. Like it feels like, and it's, this is a horrible take from a three
Hetero white guys.
hetero white dude, but we.
It felt like everything in the story was
It felt
meant to be
real.
there.
Like
yeah, it felt real. Cool.
You know people who do these things, and you know people with families that are like this.
You can
and-
relate to it.
Yeah. So
That's great.
it's all of that, and then they do he's a writer, so they can take creative liberty with like the scenes he's writing, and then get weird with camera work, like that it's happening in the room with them.
So as far as the writing the screenplay of it, do you think it should? Is it up for any awards?
I think it's nominated for best adapted screenplay.
Adapted screenplay, yeah. It was a book.
That wouldn't surprise me if it were to win.
Yeah? Okay.
Like it may not get. I don't think it'll win Best Picture.
It's up against a lot.
It's up against a lot in
Yeah.
the media too's like cycles. Like Oppenheimer is the front runner for everything. I mean, it won at the Golden Globes, BAFTA, so that's probably the betting favorite. But
Of course.
but I wouldn't be surprised if it won, Best Adapted Screenplay, or even Jeffrey Wright. He's an underdog to win Best Actor, but he very well could. It's
Yeah, I gotta see it, man. This
It's-
sounds.
you got to see it. Poor Things too. Like, I'll talk about Poor Things. So I'll take that as my movie.
Talk about poor things, man.
What I want to say.
Say it, and Dylan won't cut it. Or he
Okay.
could.
What I will say about Poor Things, and this may get some flack, this is just promoting dialogue. It's a feminist movie,
Totally.
like an authentic, and you buy it, and and it talks about like the layers, the subtext within Poor Things has like tackles these really complex sort of like socio, understandings of existence and all that stuff.
Yeah.
In a way that's like really unique and it's different and it's got its own flavor to it versus like Barbie, where it's like it was all a lead up to like down with the patriarchy. I get it, down with the patriarchy, but like if you have to spoon feed it to your audience, is it as
Impactful?
as impactful
Yeah.
as if you create this emotional connection to Emma Stone's character and you go through her perspective and you see the world as she does, and
Yeah.
it forces you just to think about ways that you wouldn't see otherwise, that I wouldn't experience given my
Yeah, it sort of, and I don't understand the experience that well, but it sort of takes the experience of growing up and throwing it into this woman experienced it over like what 2-3 months of her life.
Yeah, and she goes and explores, and
Yeah.
and it's all about her independence and how she receives the world, and it's a brilliant concept because you get to like have a young mind in an adult body
Mm-hmm.
try to navigate their way through, a relationship with Mark Ruffalo and seeing the world and realizing that like death and awful things happen
In a really fun, goofy world.
in a really fun, goofy world, and
That
it's
you haven't
hilarious.
seen?
Mm-mm.
You should, yeah, it's worth.
I
I
need
think
to. I know
you
I
like
need
Poor
to.
Things. You definitely like it, but I was just like with Barbie, I was just kind of like, really?
Yeah,
know?
Barbie was fun.
It's fun.
I thought Barbie
The
was a very
production
fun
design,
movie, yeah.
incredible. Like, it's funny. I was entertained. The commentary on certain things obviously needs to happen.
Those Chevys looked great.
But yeah, there's a goddamn car commercial.
Yeah, exactly.
in the fucking movie. Once again, studio thing. I blame the studios. But comparatively, like it's Poor Things is at another level in my eyes.
Yeah,
And kudos to Emma Stone, dude. She's friggin'.
true. Crushed it.
When you see like early Emma Stone, I never would have thought that she'd end up getting to this place of like, with The Curse, which is a really weird, wonky. Some people like it, some people hate it or you love it.
Sure.
She produced Poor Things. Just incredible talent all around.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, yeah. Bob Marley. We saw that the other.
I did want to talk about the Bob Marley movie.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that either.
I didn't know any of the Bob Marley story really, other than that, he was huge and then he got cancer and didn't treat it, like,
Yeah.
and then he died from it. I thought the movie was really cool because it takes you on a journey through the music and does a little social commentary on what Bob Marley was about. And
Yeah.
I think it's a very good biopic.
Okay.
And if you like Bob Marley's music or reggae or the country of Jamaica, like, sick, you're gonna
Heck yeah.
enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I liked it. I read a lot of criticisms of the film that it didn't cover certain things and that there was a lot of gaps of his life, but you can't cover everything in a story. And what I took from it is like this story, it's about what he really stood for, like the hope, the optimism, the
Bringing people together.
bringing people together. Like that's what it's about. And it's like the criticisms of like Oppenheimer that I've heard. It's like, well, why didn't you show anything about the effects of the bomb? It's like, well, the perspective is through Oppenheimer.
Right.
He wasn't
called
present.
It was the story. Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
story.
and
you're
you
telling.
can't cover. I mean, that movie was 3.5 hours long, right? You can't, and like as long as you can really go,
Yeah,
and you
right.
still can't cover everything. So take it. The perspective was Bob Marley. I mean, his family produced it, made the movie essentially, and it was about like his message, you know, and you learn too like why I think Bob Marley, why his music, that you know the redemption, Exodus, why that album was named the 20th century greatest album of all time was because that piece of art was made in revolution. Like that's
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
you know, and through that perspective, I mean, the dude had his life, which I didn't know, and I grew up in a family that loves Bob Marley. Saturday mornings in the Fraser household were Bob Marley and chores every Saturday.
Heck yeah.
So like I've been listening to Bob Marley my whole life. It's ingrained into my psyche. Like in terms of musicians that I would say are a part of my identity, Bob Marley's in that list. And well, I didn't even know that he had an assassination attempt on his life and survived, and still was like,
Wow.
I'm here for the people.
Yeah.
Dude.
That's freaking cool.
That is cool.
Respect. And I also didn't know he was 36 when he died. Thought he was like his 40s maybe.
Yeah.
36.
Wow, yeah, 36 is young.
Young. So
You're almost 36.
All right, well, we got to cut that. But I think they effectively captured the spirit of Bob Marley and like the message he was trying to convey and the way that music came about when he was making it, and like the headspace he was in trying to reunite the people. It comes through in the music, and I think it came through in the movie.
That's cool. That's really cool.
It's in the concerts that you seem to like. The people are also criticizing. I don't know the actor's name, his performance in it. But if you like, the look hard to match. But in terms of the essence of the character, the voice, he does a really good job in my opinion. And
I've seen a lot of the blowback of he's not Jamaican, right?
Yeah. Well,
I think that was
that part of it.
I think that was part of it, and Ziggy.
Oh, it could have been Ziggy.
Was like, no, I think it was somebody was saying that like, I don't know. I'm talking out of.
Well, they had the support of the whole family.
Yeah. Right? And they were saying like, why didn't you have like this actor? And they said this guy was the best. They auditioned so many different actors, and this guy was the best.
He was the best.
I thought he nailed the character. Thanks
for tuning in. Yeah, this was a great conversation to get a little bit to know more about the team. We've had guests on in the past, more focused on them. Our first podcast was focused on the project, but this is us. This is this is what we do. This is the team. So once again, thanks for tuning in, and if you enjoyed this podcast, put a like in, please subscribe to our channel.
Check out the Instagram.
Check out the Instagram, the TikTok. We're just gonna keep going from here.
Yeah.
So
we're gonna stop making
more stuff soon.
More stuff soon.
What a tease.
Thanks, y'all. Peace.